Hey, welcome back to the show, everyone. Today, Sam and I are joined by Flashy, who discusses his repertoire of side hustle experience, such as his Christmas light business and his sports card trading history. We also dabble into his plans to become a developer and the importance of coding in the future. Hope you guys enjoy the episode as much as we did. So good to have you on, man.
Yeah, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we're big into like entrepreneurship and whatnot. So we're just gonna get right started into that. Like it's like when you were growing up, what was like the first entrepreneurship thing like you did or like when you were young, and how did you get to start that?
So first thing I ever did, it's a little unique. When I was about like 12, 13, I was really good at Madden. And so I streamed on Twitch. And even now I have a bit of a baby face, so I look a lot younger. And so these like grown-ups would come in, see this like kid, think he's like terrible, and then we'd wager for coins. I didn't have like money to wager, so we just wagered Madden coins. And I'd win a lot, and then I just end up selling the coins because you can like go Twitter, places like that, you can sell Madden coins and like basically flip it for profit. And after I did that for a bit, I eventually like ventured into like buying coins and selling them for more, that kind of thing. Yeah, pretty much first ever experience with that was just like Madden coins. It's a good business.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's just like you see like today with Web3 and stuff, like play to earn games. It's literally you were doing the exact same thing, just in a Web2
Yeah,
atmosphere.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Madden was the first like breakthrough. That was like the first time I ever made actual money doing something.
And so yes, and I guess soon after that, at some point, you started like a holiday decoration business. So what was the moment that you realized you wanted to start a business?
So moment I wanted to start a business was probably just sometime when I was a kid, like Madden thing. I knew I always wanted to have my own thing. Didn't really want to like work for someone else. Want to like build my own kind of thing, structure that, build that up. And so yeah, when I was about I want to say yeah junior year, December is when I started the Christmas light business, and I did that in the winters because that was when online school started to become a thing, and I never went to that really. I kind of just skipped that all the time because I already had all my credits for class. But yeah, I missed a lot of school my junior and senior year. But yeah, it's pretty much just went into that.
Yeah, dude, I think that's awesome because like I know COVID and everything, like a lot of people like got hurt in COVID and like you couldn't
Mhm.
go in person to school and like you had like this disconnection with society. But like if you turn it around and like realize that all the time you have on your hands now, that everything's online and like you don't have to go anywhere, you could literally like put like 40 hours a week towards any skill or any business and you could literally grow it up over COVID, which is pretty awesome that you took advantage of that.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of times it was like more refrained to just summertime, but with COVID, just a lot more like availability with my time. So I took advantage of that.
Yeah, so tell us about like how you like what made you what your business that you started is and then like what made you like so attracted to the business model.
So the business was just basically just like hanging Christmas lights. It's anything along like Christmas lights based. But the reason I wanted to start that, I kind of like had the like I've seen the idea before, but I could never really do it because of school. And I also like the summer sucks. I live in Texas, really hot. But with Christmas lights, it's more of like a winter business, a lot cooler, easier to work outside. And so yeah, I sort of just I'm a bigger fan of like the higher ticket service businesses. So, like landscaping's great, but like you mow a yard that's 30, $40, a lot smaller. And I kind of just prefer the like fewer customers, higher ticket prices. And so that's kind of what gravitated me towards that.
Sweet. Yeah, I definitely like I can see where you're coming from because when I was in like middle school, my friend and I did a landscaping business. But like even in the giant yards, it'll take like a good hour and you're still only getting $30. And it was like me and my friend, and we'd have to split it 2 ways. So it's like $15 for an hour of mowing. It's just
Hmm. Yeah.
so I guess how did you get your first paying customer? And what would you have changed about your method looking back on that?
So first paying customer, I originally started with trying online marketing stuff like Facebook. That bombed. Online marketing has its place, but for like beginners starting a business, I wouldn't suggest going online. What actually got me my first customer would have been like flyers, passing out flyers. I'm not a huge like I'm not good at sales or anything like that. So I imagine door to door would give you a higher conversion rate. But if you're just an average guy, don't have any sales experience, like door hangers, flyers, anything like that, you can hang on a door is like very effective. And funny enough, you think like I've passed out both types. There's like expensive fancy flyers, then you can make like homemade flyers. I started out with the expensive ones. Those kind of bombed as well. For whatever reason, people like the basic, straight to the point flyers without all the decoration.
So what was like the difference between like an expensive flyer and like a regular flyer? Because I know me and Sam we cooked up a little flyer to pass around on campus here, and obviously we made it after summer, so we haven't really been able to see if it's useful. But like, what's the difference between like a expensive flyer and just a piece of paper? Because that might be insightful to us.
So expensive flyers, the kind of stuff you can like order with like the doorknob pull, like laminate paper, like really like sturdy. And by like cheap flyer, I mean just like an 8x11 piece of copy paper with just like straight to the point, that kind of thing. It might be different. I don't know like what you guys are passing out for, but for more like service businesses, it might just be because it's a lot more simple, easy to see, quicker to see. Because when someone like picks something off their door, they're only looking at it for half a second, or if not less. So you got to get straight to the point. You can't have like a bunch of pictures blocking anything like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. We gotta look into that. Hopefully, it might help us out. Did you have like a QR code, or like how did you connect to people? Or you just put a phone number and then one day you just got a call and were like, hey, I got your flyer? Or how did that?
Yeah, just put a phone number, they text, call, whatever they choose.
Sweet. Do you remember the first interaction like with the first customer you had? Like when they called you, like what did they say, and like how did that conversation go?
So when I first got a call, because I was just answering random numbers, I'd answered so many like spam calls that wasn't a customer. But I first got a call, they like mentioned it, and I got so nervous. I like froze pretty much, but finished it, got it scheduled, and I like started running around my room, so happy. It was just a enjoyable experience.
That's awesome.
So I guess on the topic of like dealing with people, what would you say is like one of the main differences when you're dealing with people related to your business opposed to just everyday life?
So the best thing, whenever you like have a business, for my sake, I worked like light suppliers, stuff like that, or like physical, not like online, but there's like physical stores for light suppliers. And so like a lot of times you get caught behind like the professional manner of like being nice, whatever. But just like me and anyone that has a business, there is a person behind that business. And so like when you interact with everyday people, you obviously want to be nice to them. If you're like trying to make a friend, be nice to them. And with business, a lot of people overlook that and just think you need to get in, get out, do the professional business, and then leave a mark. But really the best way is just be nice to everyone. There's a person behind every business. If they like you, then they'll help you out. And yeah, pretty much just make friends with everyone.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. When we had another guest on, Walker and Joe, in that episode, they were talking about they got to the point where the demand was so high they literally had to turn down customers, and like customers would like try to steal money from them, or like they would try to find a loophole and to get in the service and cheat them out of money or their time or whatnot. Have you ever dealt with that, and like how did you do it?
Yeah, once you get to a point, like when you first start, obviously you're a lot less picky, but once you get to a point, you sort of like learn what to pick and choose from. And not like pick and choose, but like you know what to avoid. If you see something that like looks sketchy, once you have like a certain amount of customers, you can start to avoid those people and just stay away from them and only pick clients that you know will actually be legitimate. It's
You
sort of
know,
just like a thing you learn over time.
do you know some characteristics like off the top of your head? Like if you saw like a house, or like not, I mean, obviously you have to stereotype. I'm working the service industry, and obviously there's stereotypes everywhere, whether they're true or not. Do you like have some like insight on like even just like conversation with a potential customer, like some red flags that they may like ask you or whatnot?
Biggest red flag, and this probably varies like by service, but for like Christmas lights, it's a bit more higher ticket. And so you sort of like provide a luxury service type, I guess it would be qualified as. And usually if they like want something specific, you have to go out, give them in-person estimates, stuff like that. And so the biggest red flag is when they ask for just a discount at like every corner. And like people want discounts obviously, but like there'll be stuff where like they'll just be really nitpicky about price, like why is it this, and just asking for a discount like every single spot. And that's that's where you're gonna have the hardest time collecting payment from people like that.
Yeah, that's a great. I always like whenever I'm reading like a book on business, they always talk about like it's when you're first starting out, it's so important to like keep your like know the value that you bring to the customer, and don't try to like let them undercut you on your price. Like stick to your price, like whatever your price is, stick to it, and don't let them cheat you out of any money.
Did you
Yeah,
ever
for sure.
did you ever feel like you were in a situation where you were or your customers were trying to undercut you because of how young you were?
Yeah, there's definitely people that like will question the legitimacy of it when you go out. Either you're asking for lots of money, they see a 16, 15-year-old kid, and they get a little suspicious. but it's sort of just like once you like the first, it's a bit harder because you don't have like before and afters or like any proof pictures. But once you have done a bit of work and you can like show them that work, it gets a lot easier to like verify that this is a legitimate thing. It's not like a little scam you're pulling, and that you can actually do the work properly.
Yeah, that's awesome. Can you, so like when you first started this, I mean, I guess you just came up with the idea and you started passing out flyers, but I'm sure there's a lot of other like how'd you get like the Christmas lights? Did you have like ones to spare to offer the people, or did you only do it for people with their own Christmas lights? And like, how did you get like ladders and whatnot? Or did you just use their equipment, or how did that work exactly?
So obviously, biggest way to make money is quicker you are, the more money you can make. And so we wouldn't accept people that already had Christmas lights. We'd do like custom lights. But so like the first year, like first time you get a customer or whatever, they obviously you have to get your own Christmas lights. Like we would supply the Christmas lights and they'd pay for them, and it would be custom. But then if they come back the next year, we would use the Christmas lights we brought the previous year, which are technically ours, but the customer owns them because we paid for them or they paid for them. And so we would just go to there's light companies everywhere, but they just supply Christmas, all kind of lights, the normal light bulbs, but they supply Christmas lights, pools of lights, pretty much anything you can think of.
I mean, that's a cool business. I would think like I didn't know, I don't not familiar with this business model. I would think you would just go up to houses that already have Christmas lights and be like, oh, I want to set up your Christmas lights for you. I never would have thought like the aspect of like actually wholesaling the lights to them, and then you make money off that too, as well as your service. That's super insightful.
Yeah, you definitely can. If you're starting, you can use their Christmas lights. The biggest problem with that though is every light has like different dimensions. And so there's like clips where you hang it on the gutter or whatever. And different light brands, like if someone has really cheap lights, it's insanely hard to like clip them and be there quickly and do it quickly and do a good job. And so if like were to use their lights and they have bad lights or whatever, that comes bad off of us because people just see the product and think, oh, they did a bad job. But it's better to just do quality work, and then you can use that for future customer reference.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how are you doing all this work like by yourself? Did you hire friends, or did you go on like Craigslist, or what did you do to like outsource your work? So you did it
So
faster,
yeah,
like you were saying.
yeah, at the start, just me like passing out flyers, and I'm terrified of height, not like terrified, but I'm not a big fan of heights, and obviously that's a problem if you have to get on roofs. And so I would do the 1-story houses, wouldn't do 2 stories. And then eventually when I got like enough customers, like I realized it was working. This is the like hardest thing to scale, is getting workers to like stay, keep showing up every day. Huge pain. But yeah, Craigslist, just postings about that. And because not only is it hard to find workers, but workers that are willing to go up to high heights and such. And like it's a pretty like sketchy job. So yeah, just keep finding workers is definitely hard.
Yeah. You still see that today. Even you were doing this years ago, and you still see the job market is so hard to find people that'll come to work every day and do their job.
Yeah, exactly.
Really sucks.
You get
So
ghosted
what?
a
So you
lot.
just sorry.
I said you get ghosted a lot when you're trying to hire people. A
Yeah.
lot of people say they show up, they just never show up. A lot of things like that.
So you were just running through employees like, okay, if this dude shows up, then I'm gonna pay him for the job. And if not, then I got to go find someone else. Is that just how it was like constantly?
Yeah, pretty much. Eventually I found like a group of people that like they all knew each other, whatever, and they like brought their cousins, or I don't know, that like cousins, family, such like that, because they all like work together. But yeah, at the start, it's really just like messaging someone, they message you back. I had someone like call me, like, sorry, I'm late, I'll be there in 30 minutes, wait another 30 minutes, never showed up, just stuff like that. And so yeah, it's pretty much just like a trial and error finding someone that will actually do the jobs.
Yeah, that's crazy. I can't imagine like going through that and not knowing who's gonna help you in your next job. And you might have to like tell a customer, be like, sorry, I can't find anyone else to work. Like you're gonna have to give me another day or two to do this job. That would suck.
Yeah, it's definitely awkward telling the customer that.
Yeah. So obviously you started this, like I assume it was over winter since you're doing Christmas lights.
Yeah,
Did you
October is when you start.
Okay, so do you think about, oh, so you just do from Halloween to the end of the year and then you're
Pretty much.
done?
Yeah,
Okay.
so we didn't do like Halloween lights, but for whatever reason, people like them really early. So pretty much usually like October 1st is this like start of the season.
Okay. Have you thought about expanding it like where you're working like more of the year, or do you like it where it's seasonal, and like why do you like seasonal versus like year round work?
I mean, I prefer really I like the winter time a lot. Just it's a lot cooler to work or whatever. A lot not nearly as hot because when you get on like a roof in the summer, it's like at least 120 degrees, black roof, very hot. But I didn't really think too much about expanding it into like a full year gig. Like I guess I could have expanded it to like stuff like landscaping, anything like that. But it was more like sort of just like a side gig where I knew I never wanted to do it for the rest of my life. I just knew it'd be like something that could get me to a point of something I wanted to do the rest of my life. So I still wanted to have time for the stuff that I did enjoy and focus on that and getting better at that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a good point is like when you're so young and being like such an entrepreneur like that, and it is like a way of getting you to a point where you can do something with your life. Like a lot of people think, oh, starting a business, they think like, oh, it needs to be something that can get me through my entire life. But like you said, it just needs to get you to a point where you can do something else that you want and like set you up financially and help you learn so much from it.
Yeah, exactly. Like there was a lot of other businesses I tried and a lot of them failed. And eventually you'll find something that does work. And so I just say like keep pushing to find that thing.
Yeah. Can we dive into those businesses that you tried and failed? And like what were some of the like ones that you learned the most lesson from?
So or I don't know about I didn't like so curb painting. You've probably seen that's pretty popular. Painting like house numbers on curbs. That was a failure because I'm not a good salesman. I went door to door. It's kind of like you kind of have to go door to door for it. I never tried flyers. Probably could have tried it, but because curb painting is a lot like $20. So when you're handing out flyers, you like need a lot more customers because the cost for the flyer, obviously, as opposed to door, you don't have to pay to like knock on someone's door. And so wasn't a very good salesman. Didn't get really any sales at all. So that didn't work out. Um, Briefly tried power washing. Still the same thing. For This wasn't my kind of thing. And those were like the physical ones I tried online businesses. Those failed. Like I don't know about fail. Like some of them were profitable. I just ended up not enjoying it, and I don't want to like devote myself to be miserable for like months and months just to make a bit of profit. So like stuff like Shopify stores, drop shipping, things like that.
Yeah, that's an awesome point. Like I feel like a lot of people now just like think, oh, I want to start a business and I'm gonna just jump into some random business, but if they don't enjoy it, then it's not gonna last, and they're not gonna it's gonna cause them more stress in their life than it will positivity. Even if it's bringing money and they're stressed out about it every day, it's not gonna be overall benefit for them.
Yeah, definitely net negative.
Yeah.
You know.
And you see the same thing scale up to 9 to 5 jobs. Or not everyone, but a lot of people are miserable in their day-to-day job, and you have to do it for decades, which makes you even more miserable.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have any advice for someone that's young, maybe like you were, and wants to start a business?
Probably the biggest piece of advice for anyone starting a business would be one, when you do get a customer, if they complain about something, no matter how small it seems, like if you're landscaping, you miss a single blade of grass and they want you to come back out and cut it, just make them happy, no matter like what it takes. Make sure they're happy because you'll make so much more money from getting customers through like online recommendations, like stuff like Glassdoor, like them just like telling their neighbors, anything like that. And so just anything that would make the customer happy is what you need to do, no matter how like stupid it seems. There'll be a lot of annoying customers, but you just got to deal with it and make them happy.
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like anywhere you can provide value to someone and they're willing to pay for it, that's like the gold mine. And if you enjoy it too, that's really the gold mine right there, where you can just make money and do something you love.
Yeah.
So obviously you just did this out of school. What is your plans like for college right now? Like, what are you doing in school, or are you trying to find a side hustle that you can just do and drop out of school, or what are your thoughts on school?
So college is kind of a interesting story. Like my whole life, it was kind of like my dream school to go to UT Austin. It was like big school in Texas. It's kind of like the Texas school. And so I always wanted to go there, worked really hard in school to get good grades so I could go there. And then I got accepted my junior year, like your junior summer. And then, so my plan was to go there, thought I had it all set. I was initially going to go for finance. And then my senior year, I always knew like I wanted to create stuff, but I got into coding. And then I had to make the decision come fall after my senior year to either turn down the school that I've always wanted to go to, or to go to a coding boot camp to learn more about coding and to focus more on that. And so instead of going to college, I ended up deciding to do that because it was more practice based. And when college is a lot more like you do stuff like calculus, and that's not really relevant, just things like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I didn't even know there was like, I've never even heard of something like that. That's really cool how they have like a school like that. That seems like it's even gotten pretty big, and is a pretty good school, and it's just so specialized in coding because even in like a university in your major, it just seems like there's so much time you could save by strictly learning one profession than having to learn all the basics and all the gen eds and everything else.
Yeah. And obviously coding is like super big right now. Like what made you leave like finance to go to more like a coding major? Like what made you so attracted to it?
Yeah, so I love finance, still do, and I think it's very important. And I always like wanted to go into finance when I was older. But as I did like more research around the like finance job market, it's a lot more sales based. As opposed, I always thought it was like more helping people, but a lot of it is just sales based, and I like that's how you make the most money. So I don't really enjoy that, and I always knew I wanted to create something, and so that's I came across coding just like looking around jobs, and I tried it a bit. Like the, there's one site like Free Code Academy, stuff like that, Code Academy, anything like that, and just tried it a bit. And I really enjoyed it because I just like sitting down and working on something, and then you yourself is what creates what happens. Is just really enjoyable to me, like solving puzzles, anything like that. So that's how I sort of like fell in love with it.
I mean, yeah, I can definitely relate. Because I guess all through high school, I was in that same position where I just want to go to college because that's what I was told like I should do. And I was spending so much time trying to get like perfect grades. And then it got to like junior, senior year, and I was just kind of like, I don't even know if this is what I want to do. And only recently I kind of got into coding because I got exposed to it through some of my classes. But I wish I had found like something I enjoyed like that sooner because I just right like now it just I'm not sure if like that's what I want to do, you know?
Yeah, I mean, if you enjoy coding, I would definitely like say to go more into it because there's like so many avenues for coding that if you enjoy the like basics of it, you can 100% find some sort of like niche of coding to get into that you'll enjoy doing. Like there's game development, web development, blockchain development, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, that's a great point. I know me and Sam are big into blockchain. I know Sam wants to dive into like computer programming for blockchain specifically. What are you looking to get into, or are you more like open minded and you're just waiting for something to come up?
So I know in the future I want to eventually get into blockchain development. It's kind of like the stuff they use for blockchain development is a bit more advanced. So you kind of have to learn the basics. So you still need web development, stuff like that. And the big reason I want to get into blockchain development is like I've been a big crypto guy. And even though like I'm behind a project, I like a project, I want to be the guy that's creating a project and can like control what's happening on that front as opposed to just investing in other people to create that. And so that was kind of like the big motivator to get into coding as well, is just be able to like actually create something that I enjoy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Are you looking to like, are you trying to join a DAO, or do you want to join like like make a public company that's based off of blockchain technology, or like what would be your dream right now?
Yeah, so right now I'm not like I don't have like a huge idea yet, kind of just going with it. But eventually, like long-term future, I do want to develop some sort of like a Web3 game, anything like that, like a pay to earn, like we were talking about earlier. Something like that would be really cool because I've always enjoyed like playing games.
Yeah, what are some of your favorite blockchain games? Have you played any?
I've played a few. The biggest thing that's holding back Web3 right now is the games are awful. If we're being like in comparison to like AAA games like you see in like Web2, they're just not very good. Eventually it'll get there, but I just don't think the developers are there yet to make these like huge games and compete with things like Call of Duty and Madden, like the big names with billions and billions of dollars at their disposal. But right now, compared to like Web2 games, there's not really many good ones if we're being honest, but eventually it'll get there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I've tried like one or two, and I've just heard that pretty much all of them are just terrible. And even like Axie Infinity, which is so big, over in Asia, people over here say it's not even fun. But I guess so. Like currently, you're in coding school, and in the future, you want to get to the point where you're creating a game. What are the steps that you want to take, like to get from the point you are now to the point in the future?
So point I'm at now is we're pretty much done now. We've learned web development, and so we use languages like JavaScript, Ruby, and I know like blockchain development, like off the Ethereum blockchain, they use Solidity. Polygon uses Golang, I believe, and then Binance I'm pretty uses like Solidity and TypeScript. Not 100% sure on Binance, but one of those. And so it's kind of like there's languages in coding. There's like the C family, C sharp, C plus plus. There's tons and tons of languages. Like there's Java, just endless amounts of languages. And so right now I'm at the like web development front. Eventually I'll want to get into the game development front, and that's where you'd use like the C family, Java, stuff like C Sharp and C++. And so I have to learn those first. But eventually, after I learn like the game development process, I can move on to like blockchain development, learning Solidity, and then learning the like frameworks behind it.
Yeah. So can we touch on the crypto and like why it's so important in blockchain technology? Like, what do you think in a general sense? Like, why do you think blockchain is so powerful? And like, why do you think it differs itself from like the original coding that we had like back in 2000s? And then also like, if you can touch on like how the Solidity to like programming is different than just basic programming.
So I'm not a huge expert on blockchain development, but from what I know, so more like if we go back to old languages, like the start of like BASIC, that obviously it's basically like a glorified calculator that was like really hard to create. But so now we have stuff like a lot of people don't know when they get into like Ethereum, they issue like digital money. That's what they think it is. Like Ethereum sort of acts as like, have you guys ever used Shopify? You can create websites.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Ethereum sort of acts as like a framework for blockchain development, where it makes it a lot easier for these crypto projects to get their crypto running on the Ethereum blockchain. And so they use like Solidity to create these smart contracts for these cryptos. And basically like Ethereum, Polygon, Binance are the like easiest way to compare it to someone who's like never been into blockchain or anything like that, is that Ethereum, Polygon, Binance, they sort of act as like the Shopify for the blockchain, to where these crypto products, like let's say you have an idea, I have an idea, and we know how to develop the idea with these languages. We can go and put it up on an Ethereum blockchain, Polygon blockchain, and basically use their resources as like a framework to make it a lot easier to develop it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm super excited for like the smart contracts like area in general, because like it's gonna be so cool how it like plays into like insurance or car titles or even trading and whatnot. Do you have any like opinions or like thoughts on like what's gonna be changed the most, and what industry is gonna be the most disrupted by contracts, smart contracts?
Oh, like that is such a broad. There's so many things that'll be affected. I think I'm trying to think of like the biggest possible. Like I know like the like beginner quotas, like real estate. You'll eventually be able to trade like digital real estate, and that'll be really cool. But it's kind of like a hard thing to decide what will be the biggest, because it'll affect industries and not the same way, but like it'll affect industries so big that like it's kind of just compared to like what industry you find the most important, what you like believe is the most important. So whether you're like a big real estate guy, a big gaming guy, anything like that, these smart contracts will be able to basically like digitize that industry a lot more efficiently.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's hard to say like what specific industry is going to get like disrupted, because it's literally going to affect everything over time. It's inevitable. I mean, it's just clearly a more secure like program.
Mm-hmm. And in the same way, coding is going to be one of those things that in the next 20, 30, 40 years is going to be a skill that literally everyone needs to know it to some extent. So I guess if you had like one or two programming languages that you would say everyone needs to have at least some exposure to in the next 10 years, what would you choose?
So if you want to learn coding, the like biggest thing I've learned is once you learn one language, it's a million times easier to learn other languages, because they all sort of go around this basic principle, which is different writing. So the easiest language to learn is probably Ruby or Python. We learned Ruby to start. And so if you're just getting started, never coded before, learn Ruby first. And then once you learn Ruby, you can move into like JavaScript, then Java. But a lot of people like focus on learning the hardest language, because then they think if I can learn the hardest language, I can learn everything else. But if you can just learn one language, it'll make learning all the other languages like so much easier. Like, significantly less amounts of time spent to learn the other languages.
Yeah, that's a great point. That even like applies like even in actual languages, like real life languages. People always say like, oh, once you learn like Spanish or once you learn one other language, then it makes it so like a lot more easier to learn a whole different one. And then you can just compound into like a bunch of languages at the same time and be so versatile. That's awesome. You're starting so early.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of them do have a lot of like similarities, like Spanish, Italian, such like that.
Yeah. So obviously coding is like relevant to like NFTs and whatnot. You also let's dive in. Obviously, your profile picture is a Mavericks card with Luka Doncic on it, which is a trading card. And obviously, this is just a big industry that people really don't know about, like as far as trading and making money off of. So, how did you like get into like trading sports cards, and like what made you so attracted to them besides like the sports aspect?
So got into sports cards when I was around like 6, but I was like poor back then, so I was probably like $5 packs, messed around with it. And then after the like Madden coin thing, I had a bit more money to work with, and then I invested that in like stocks. And then as that went on, got more and more money to work with. And then I started to do a bit more research, and I found that there's like an actual market of this trading. Like cards will go up and down based off performance and like just market value. It kind of like fluctuates along like stocks and crypto, where outside factors will affect it as well. But yeah, it's kind of just something I caught up to, and around early 2020, I think like just before the pandemic started, and then it really blew up in the pandemic. And I just really enjoyed it because I've always been a huge football, basketball guy, and it just felt like instead of like betting on sports, you could sort of like look and like evaluate players and evaluate their growth. And then if you believe in a player, you can purchase their card and make money off it.
Yeah. So what are some factors other than like obviously the better the player is, the more valuable it's going to be? Like, what are some other factors that influence like the price of a card or like the type of card, its value?
So biggest influence, it's actually like you think it would be like how the individual player performs, but it's sort of team success. So like let's say, for example, Joe Burrow had a good season, but or we'll do Matthew Stafford because he obviously won the Super Bowl. But so if he did bad, he had a good season, but if he did bad, but his team still won the Super Bowl, his card will still go up. So it's not exactly about who the best player is, but it's about who the best player with the best situation is. Because there's like quarterbacks that are very talented, but they're in terrible situations, horrible offenses, and pretty much just anyone that can put up numbers due to their offensive talent around them will make them a lot more valuable.
Yeah, and I guess the main thing like with sports cards is, at least recently, when you think of sports cards, the first thing that comes to mind is NFTs, because they blew up so much and they're pretty similar. So I got to ask, like, did you get into NFTs the past couple of years when they started to explode?
Yeah, I got into a bit. So I messed around with a few. Like NBA Top Shot was a big one. I kind of they kind of went down a different path that I was expecting them to go down, but still sort of around the same premise, like sports cards, but for in an NFT form, slightly different, like videos. Got into a few other NFTs, but sports cards are a bit harder to NFT just because there's such a large like in-person community around it. It's more like there's a national event every year in Dallas. There's a huge show every like 3 or so months, but a lot of like sports card values come from the like actual in-person aspect, so that'll be a bit harder to digitize and make it fully like online, as opposed to like a tangible asset that you can hold physically. And a lot of people do enjoy like being able to look at the card, and so it's stuff like that. But so for like other industries though, where there's not that huge online like community, I definitely see it going down that route of where like tangible assets eventually get moved into like non-fungible assets. And so I can definitely see that happening. But sports cards, I think, will take a bit longer for that to eventually happen.
Yeah, I agree totally. It's really valuable. Like just see like if you have actually have possession of the sports card, like I don't know, right now it means a lot more like in today's society than it does like if you have something on your phone, just because it's actual sports card and you like feel it and see like everything and you read the stats on the back and whatnot. Have you like what do you have like a trade? Obviously people make a bunch of money like in the stock market, and people have made a bunch of money in NFTs, like just crazy returns. Have you had like any like notable trades that you like will never forget? Like you flipped a card from like $10 to 100 or some crazy story?
So for like sports cards trading,
Yeah, just like sports cards, like physical assets.
my biggest return was Josh Allen. I believe after his rookie year, he had like an year, but not many people were in on him. But they traded for Stephon Diggs. Like I was saying, offensive talent around them's a huge player because their team actually has to succeed for the card to go up. And so they traded for Stephon Diggs. I really liked what I saw. He's a big physical quarterback. He can run. He great arm talent. And so Josh Allen was probably the biggest like actual single card investment. I bought his optics for I want to say 130. I'd have to go look at it because there's like tax and stuff you have to take into account. And then I ended up selling it that same year in the playoffs around like 560, I believe, just under 600.
That's crazy that people would buy a card for like $500, like a piece of paper.
Yeah, it's insane to like think of how much like money people will spend on cardboard.
Yeah, but at the same time, like if people are spending that much money on cardboard, and then you look at NFTs and people are spending millions of dollars on some hash function, like it just doesn't make any sense. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like looking into this industry and not realizing like if you don't know anything about either like sports, like you explaining this now, I'm not too familiar with like trading cards and whatnot, but like what you're saying now, it like it's a lot more insightful, like to understand why you would bet on like certain players and certain cards. Like I never thought about this stuff. And then at the same time, NFTs, like if you're looking at it from an outside picture and you're like, okay, this is just literally an ape and people are buying it for $1 million. It's a picture of an ape. Why would I buy that for $1 million? But like, obviously there's a lot more factors behind that people don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy.
And it's so easy to look at it from like the outside view and see, oh, people are spending millions of dollars on an ape. This is so pointless, when there could in fact be those other factors that you don't know about because you're not even looking into it.
Yeah. I'm actually curious. I was listening to an episode with Mark Cuban on it. And he was talking about how they were giving out NFTs for the tickets at the Dallas games. Do you have any Dallas Maverick NFT tickets?
Unfortunately, I don't. I've looked into it. I've thought about it. I haven't gotten one, but that might be a future purchase.
Yeah. I love Mark Cuban, what he's doing with that organization. Super cool.
Yeah, great honor. Very energetic.
He's a smart guy. But yeah, do you have, I know you touched on some like YouTube's like freecodecamp.org. Do you have any like books or other YouTube recommendations like for people to, whether it's learning like entrepreneurship, coding, or sports cards, like some resources that you had to hand off to them?
So there's one book, if you do want to like for coding more, called Data Structures and Algorithms. I hate coding books. They're always like, I've read HTML for Dummies. They suck, really boring. But Data Structures and Algorithms, very good book. Makes it a lot more like it's a lot more interesting than normal coding books. It makes it a lot more fun to read. But if you are interested, that's a good one to read. A lot of free resources. You can look at YouTube videos. There's a lot of like courses on YouTube where they teach you basics. And then if you want to actually like practice what you've learned, Replit is a great free like a code editor, and you can write code, run it, and then it'll show up right there, whatever it runs out.
Yeah, sweet. We'll make sure to like link some stuff down below for anyone listening.
And then so we normally end with this final question for our guests. So what is one goal
for him too?
What is one goal that you have in your career or personal life, and what actions are you taking to achieve that goal?
So my biggest goal is I've always wanted since I was like a kid. I want to create something. It's extremely cliche, bear with me, but I want to create something that will be around past that's just bigger than me. Something that like can actually affect other people in a positive manner. Something that can change other people's lives, anything like that. I just really want to create something that is sort of just like bigger. We obviously have limited time on the earth. I just want to create something that'll sort of give me like a legacy of something that I know that I can help other people with, anything like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Honestly, if everyone really thought like that, we would be all right as a society. Like that's a super good mindset to have, like long term. Just leave something behind, and that's the most you can do. But yeah, just leave any like we're finishing up here, so just leave like if you have your Twitter or like any websites you want to link for people to reach out to you.
No website. You can check out my LinkedIn, but I don't know how many people want to do that. I kind of post random stuff on there. I don't really post anything on there. Yeah, I don't really have any socials I want to shout out.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. All right. Well, I think we're finished up. Thanks for coming on. We really appreciate your time.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Bye. All right, sweet. You did pretty good, man.